So the first video about the spinning wheel. The first thing I'm going to do is make the actual wheel portion of it. Now this is going to be a castle type spinning wheel where this wheel will be vertical facing you. The bobbin will be up here and you'll have dual foot pedals on this to rotate this wheel. So when you make your wheel, I'm going to use 8 pieces for efficiency. So when you're figuring out what size yours is, remember that this part here, you're flat. On the outside, you'll be taking off the point. And then when you get to the inside, you've got the point here, you'll be taking off this part. So to start off with a piece of wood that was 3.5 inches, I end up with just about a 3-inch thickness here. So what I did for these is all these angles are 22.5 degrees, and I just went ahead and made the outside 8 inches, and that's going to give me about 20 1/3 inches. But I'm going to glue all these together, and I'm going to take a router, and I'm just going to put me a circular piece here, and I'll go around it with a router, route that out, and then put a smaller one in the middle, and go ahead and do this, route out this portion right here to finish it up. But before I glue it, I'm going to go ahead, I've got these all marked out, so I'm going to go ahead on a bandsaw and maybe do a little cut in here too, and then I'll glue this, clamp this together with a band. So we'll see how this turns out. I'm not sure if I want to try to dowel this or put biscuits in it, or just go ahead and glue it up and then drill it and dowel it after the fact. So we'll see how this turns out. So now I've turned this out on the lathe, put a first coat of lacquer on it, a little bit of abalone inlay, and I'll drill the through hole in there later. So try not to get glue in these holes, but I don't think it matters if you do. They're not going anywhere. So now we have to drill our holes out for our spokes that are going to go in our big wheel, where we cut these 22.5 by 8 inch. This is about 5 1/8 here. So to get all these the right size, we're going to use our drill press. Now I have my straight edge here clamped down, and this can't move, but I need to be able to stop this block from moving back and forth. So I'm going to put me block here, I'll clamp that down, but the thing is these ends are pointed, so you want to make sure that they butt up against that block. Don't try to go underneath it or anything. So for accuracy, what I'm going to do, because this may not be perfect here, I'm just going to put a little board up here to elevate this slightly to where this point of this block will actually hit that above the level of the table right here. So it's basically, you know you're going to hit it here, you're not going to be under it. Give a little bit more consistency here. So I want to get this, these side to side here and back and forth. So hope that helps somebody. Another interesting fact that this piece of wood helps with is you get all this trash down here, and you have somewhere to brush it to. It's easy to clean this off, so you're not, it just seems to work a little bit better to have this piece right here, so you don't accidentally get something underneath your piece of wood. So just to show you, I'm making sure I numbered my blocks to begin with. So I put all the numbers on one side, so I'm keeping all the numbers on the same side. So even if you're off center this way a little bit, it doesn't really matter so much But if you staggered back and forth side to side like this, then your spokes wouldn't fit. But as long as they're at equal distance off one side, even if your wheel's slightly offset, at least everything will fit. And the same thing applies when you're doing your center hub. So when you drill these Forstner bits, you want to make sure you got a nice sharp Forstner bit, but go a little bit at a time for chip clearance. And I'm going to go pretty deep here, but I'd rather have it plenty deep enough on my radius when I go to glue it than I have to try to glue that after everything's cut out. So this is firm, this is firm. So my straight edge will take my torque, and I'm just holding against it, and I go about the depth of that bit at a time, and just take your time. You can hog it all at once, but if you do that, you're going to get your drill bit stuck. And the other thing you'll notice is your wood, as it heats up, it'll start to expand like that. So it starts to grab. At least I think it's due to heat and expansion. See how that'll get stuck? I drilled just a little bit too much. So now I'll take my bandsaw and I'll be cutting those radiuses out of here. So now we're going to cut out our portion for our wheel pieces. And I really like these Timberwolf bandsaw blades. I just used this for the first time and cuts like a razor. We'll see how long that happens. They're thicker, and it looks like it's been heat treated along these teeth here, but they're really sharp. I like them. So as you can see, so I don't cut my fingers off here, these do pretty good. It doesn't jump out or anything like that. I've actually got another couple. Cut nice and straight, and that's a brand new blade, proper tension. And then this here that I put on in a previous video, I see it's rattled loose. This part right here, these rollers, they make all the difference in the world. And of course I had upgraded this from a 1/2 horsepower motor on here to a 2 horsepower motor on here. That makes a big difference. A little bit of scrap motor material. So now I'll show you where we're at this point. So here we go. And what I'll do is I'll clamp these with one of these. So that's just these little things here, just a table clamp. Some of them have metal corners and stuff, but it just takes a wrench or a screwdriver to tighten that ratchet up in there, and you can clamp stuff like this. So now I'll just need to make all my spokes. This is the first wheel I've ever made like this. A couple of things to do that I didn't do. First off, measure the distance from the hole in your spoke to the face of your spoke. If you want it to match this, great. I made mine a little bit wider, so I have to elevate this wheel during the glue up because my spoke is going to stick out slightly proud of this or higher. Now I used a Roman Ogie router bit, is the type it's called, to make this design here. Something else I screwed up on was one of my biscuits I got off center. I wasn't paying attention. I'll have to patch that up. And then also when I come through with my router bit, I didn't realize I'd be so close to the edge. So there's 3 little spots that I'll have to go back and I'll just mix up some sawdust and wood glue and patch those. You want to make sure that you do a dry clamp. So get all your spokes in, get your hubs in, get your biscuits in, clamp it up, make sure everything fits and you're happy before you even think about gluing this thing together. Another thing I did to help myself out, one end of the spokes, I put a stop on them. So that'll look fine, but the other end, I just made a kind of a taper here so that this is adjustable in and out. Because trying to get everything here exact, you know, I'm not a machine, so I can't even duplicate the spokes very well. If you look at them, I mean, I tried, but I'm not going to tweak on this for a week trying to get all these exact. It's just a spinning wheel. So you'll put your stop on one end, and then you leave the other end without your stop, and that way you have a little bit of adjustment. You know, nobody will ever know. You're going to cover this portion up with a vertical member anyway. So just number one thing, make sure you do a dry fit on everything, clamped, and make sure it looks good before you think about gluing. Once you're glued up, you're not done. You need to make sure your wheel is round. Now the only way I know how to do this without a big lathe or a big jig would be, I've got my mandrel, so if you don't have a mandrel, then just anything you can stick in the center of your hub. But I've got my compass, and I'm checking to make sure that this is the same all the way around. So it looks like I'm about a 1/16 out. I don't really think you'd ever notice that, but because I have a little slack, I can kind of twist a couple of these, and pull against this side, twist a couple of these, and push against the other side. And I can move it. And you know, of course, if all else fails, you can always do a little bit of a tap. But just remember that if you do that, you can start opening up joints. So you got to keep checking your roundness. And that way, when you put this thing together, it'll look like somebody might have actually known what they were doing. I'm sure there's somebody out there that makes wagon wheels that's just laughing at the way I do this, but this is the first attempt with no books. I just looked at something, and I'm building it based on what I saw. I do have some books coming though, so maybe I'll learn something out of them and then share it with you. We're going to be building a loom in the future. So anyway, looks like that's going to be good. I'll let that set up and dry.